Hey, Kyle, it's Spiral Stairs here.
You've got a fantastic record called Dorris and the Daggers, which I can't help but thinking about those campy 1950s, 60s rock and roll movies where that would have been the name of the movie and the name of the band.
Yeah, right. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the idea a little bit, to kind of create this kind of narrative that where people kind of just take what they want from it, really. But the name actually came from a woman in Sydney, Australia, who owns a bar there called the Hollywood Hotel, and we were there one night and came up with this kind of funny thing about her being in this band, and her name was Doris, and so we thought of this great band title called Doris, like she would be called Doris, and she was backed by the Daggers, and
right.
So it kind of I've had it for a while, and I just kind of going through my notes, I was like, oh, there's that cool name again,
and there it is.
Yeah, there it was.
Lands on the album. So I mean, is the record supposed to be listened to in sort of a way that I don't know, more like I wouldn't call it a rock opera, but with a character in mind like that throughout all the songs?
Well, maybe. I mean, originally when I intended on recording this thing, we were going to do it like in a week with kind of like the old days where we just sort of recorded and sang and mixed all in a week. Mm-hmm. So I kind of, in kind of garage rock style, so it was like I had in my head, like, okay, we're going to be this band, Dorris and the Daggers, and like, yeah, in my head I was like, the songs all kind of fit together, and then since that didn't happen because our drummer ended up dying unexpectedly, mm-hmm. It was kind of a nickname I had for him too. His name was Darius, but I would always call him Doris, and so it kind of all came around full circle, So yeah, I mean, songs all kind of deal with everything. So
right.
Maybe it's definitely two sides, kind of two. If you listen to it like a vinyl record, I kind of made it to where the first 5 songs could kind of flow together pretty well, and then the second side is like it's another. Mm-hmm. You know how when you listen to records, you're kind of like you can only get through one side of the record, and then you have to turn it over. So it's like you get a little break.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I intended on this as well.
No, I mean, I love that you put that kind of thought into it. It's more than most people put in there these days. And I can listen to a CD all the way through and there's no fatigue. But once the vinyl flips, it's time for a break.
Yeah, it gives you a break. Yeah. It's like, the old Beatles records or Beach Boys records or whatever were perfect, because they were like 35 minutes long, and you had like, in the old days, it's probably, today it probably means more because you've got so much more to kind of take your mind away from listening to a record. Mm-hmm. In the old days, it was like, the records are 35 minutes long, so what would that be, about 17 minutes a side? So that's kind of perfect,
Right.
In today's world, it would be even more perfect with all that's going on.
Well, I wouldn't mind hearing about a few of the songs on here because it starts out with Dance, Cry Wolf, and it's interesting as I'm listening to it, and I think after I'd sort of considered the song, I read a little bit about it, and we were sort of on the same page because the way you just drill Dance over and over, it's almost like a German constitution where it's like a strict, it's less fun than I think dancing should be. And it's sort of like an Iggy Pop in Germany sort of a thing, more of a command than a recommendation.
Yeah. It's definitely Bowie and Iggy in Berlin, in 76 or whatever when they were there, and mixed with a little Roxy music, around the same time. It's kind of what I was going for.
And you moved around a lot between, the last few records. I know that's sort of part of the story in here. And I was kind of looking at the timeline. When you were in Australia, it seemed like that was the moment when when everybody out of Australia was becoming big on the international scene. from
Yeah.
Tame Impala over in Perth, and well, I mean, just a handful of names. Was that happening around you while you were there? I mean, were you noticing the scene?
Yeah. I mean, Australia's always had a very vibrant music scene, and at that time, it was before they kind of hit it big over in the States. There was tons of bands who were playing. I mean, you only have to be 18 to drink there, so the bars are very vibrant at a young age, and and every pub has a band playing in it, and it's been like that for forever. The Midnight Oils and the In Excesses. That's kind of where they all started. And it's one of the things I love about Australia. When I'd go visit, prior to marrying an Australian and going and living there, I would go and visit basically every year, and I'd get to see in Melbourne or something, I get to see my favorite band, bands that I just loved that no one really knew about, Beast of Bourbon or the New Christs, or cool old bands like that, and they'd just be playing a show at a pub, and there'd be 500 people there. It'd be so cool.
Yeah.
But all the new bands are amazing too. I really like this band Blank Realm out of Brisbane, and they're really cool. Kind of sound like The Fall meets The Clean, and the Twerps are cool, and Tame Impala, of course. That. Yeah, they're doing,
and Courtney Barnett, and
oh yeah,
it's
great songwriters.
It's the whole thing. I mean, it's no pun intended. It seems like in rock and roll, Australia gets to constantly be the great underground. Because you have, I mean, the scientists and everything else that came out of the early scene, and just went unheard. But when you found them, it was a whole world in there. So
yes, and in New Zealand too. In New Zealand rock was a big influence of my early years,
which is amazing, because how did you even find that? There's no internet there, and it's such a
no. It was college radio, and basically college radio and fanzines around the time.
Right. It's a romantic era.
That's It was the only way you can find things.
I mean, we're only a few years apart, so it's I was there.
So you were there, you know what it was like.
Yeah. But by the way, and speaking of other bands, bit of a kismet thing was happening the other day, and I'm on your page, and I think you posted a video by the Go-Betweens, and it had always been one of those bands that I just never taken the time to learn, to listen to, and I was reading, I don't know, Mojo or Uncut or something, and they had just done a big feature on them, and I think it's finally time. I gotta dive into the Go-Betweens now. So thanks to you.
I'm the same way. It took me. I wasn't into them when they first came out or whatever. Obviously they were kind of more 80s, but I was a late fan to them, but once you get in, you get kind of sucked in hard, and there's a lot of really great stuff. Yeah, well,
I'm looking forward to it. But in the meantime, I got your record on repeat. Compliments where they're due. So. Thanks again, for talking today and being flexible, and I really am. I'm loving this record. Congrats on it, and it's good to have you back. I know it's been a few years, but it's good to have you back.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be back. Yeah, cool. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.